Potential hurricane threat in the Atlantic, and it's still early season. The Atlantic is certainly promising some activity at the moment with a new tropical depression, 3L, which is located at 11.3 degrees north, 40.3 degrees west. That places it over the central Atlantic, and it's moving quite quickly and steadily towards the west, eventually ending up possibly towards the Lesser Antilles. Right now, as of 11 AM local time, Atlantic Standard Time, as well as Eastern Daylight Time, it had 35 mile per hour winds with a pressure estimate of 1009 millibars, moving west at 23 miles per hour. So a fast moving system at the moment, but still doesn't have tropical storm force winds yet, although I expect that will change fairly quickly. Here it is right now, the position displayed on the map. We've got no wind quadrants to show you, obviously, but there is its position, and we've been tracking it for a couple of days now since it was near the Cape Verde Islands. It is currently 2,086 kilometers from Barbados, 2242 from St. Lucia, 2244 from Martinique, 2296 from Dominica, and 2312 from Guadeloupe. Considering this current speed of around 37 kilometers per hour, it will probably get to these areas in about 50 hours or so, if we took that into account. But of course, it's probably going to be a little bit later than that, because it's not going to go straight for those islands, and it will probably slow down later on as it gets closer and starts to curve a little bit. The primary hazard right now, because it's not affected strike land for many days, if at all, the primary hazard is its long-ranging effects on the seas, with rough tides and rip currents reaching the Caribbean islands in advance of the storm. Now, it's not set in stone exactly where this storm will impact land. If it does, it could stay out to sea. Even if it does, though, at this point it is looking like it will get uncomfortably close to land areas. And here is our forecast right now over the next 7 days or so. You can see the storm force winds starting to branch out throughout the course of the week, and then gets closer to those Lesser Antilles, particularly the northern part, the Leeward Islands, moving through there, possibly over some land areas as we get towards the weekend, and then continuing towards the northwest. Some models take it further south than that, well into the Caribbean Sea, so that would be interesting, but the GFS is on the northern side of all that, which still doesn't have a landfall explicitly yet, but it is getting a bit closer. The sustained winds right now around 35 miles per hour. We don't have that many observation tools yet, but that's the National Hurricane Center's line, and we're running with that as well, although I do expect we will see a tropical storm before this day is out. No ASCAT yet, I don't think, but that's all the info we currently have. And here is an ensemble view here showing some of the projections there on where the storm could go. Illustrates what I was saying very well, actually, but that spread is actually trending a little bit further south, so it could be a Caribbean cruiser this early in the season. Is certainly a turn up for the books. Now, don't forget, there has never been a hurricane in the open Atlantic waters, in this area at least, prior to July. And here is the forecast track from the GFS. It wants a hurricane. As a matter of fact, it wants two, would you believe it, from the model run this morning, forecasting this system and the one behind it, which National Hurricane Center has now given a moderate chance of development. Both of those could become mature tropical cyclones, and the first one, obviously this one, affecting the Caribbean islands, getting quite close, doesn't properly affect those islands there, but certainly interesting. And this is simulated radar reflectivity, showing what the structure of these two systems might look like. Obviously we're focusing on 3L. Its structure improves over time, gets an eye feature, although it's a little bit ragged on that south side, and the other system behind it doing something quite similar, although it gets swept up in the influence of 3L, later on in that forecast period. This is out 7 days. There could be a lot of variability in this. The second system much weaker, not weaker, but smaller, and possibly near the same intensity actually, but this one of course 3L much larger there, and quite interesting on that northern side with some very dark colours on that radar. Now here is the estimated rainfall spread then over the next 7 days as well. Don't forget, this could change quite rapidly as well. If it does change in its track southwards, then all of that orange line, which is basically the track of the centre of the storm, will move over those land areas, and that would mean 10 inches or more of rainfall. There's the projection, 11 inches there. 2 inches currently projected on some of those islands in the Lesser Antilles. I think it's Guadeloupe there that was getting 2 inches, and 1.3 currently indicated in Barbados. There's still lots of time to think about all of this before it gets anywhere near land, but certainly something to keep an eye out on in terms of wind and all of that rain. Sea surface temperatures ahead of this system are very warm, 26-27 degrees Celsius. It will get gradually warmer as the storm continues towards the Lesser Antilles. Of course, at this early time of year, it's the Eastern Atlantic that's usually on the back foot, has catching up to do, but I tell you what, around 3 degrees above average at the moment has probably made this storm much more possible than otherwise it would have been. So let's take a look now at the satellite imagery, and we've got some lovely views here because we've got the mesoscale satellite above it right now, goes 16, and you can quite clearly see the movement of this system gradually towards the west. It might have a slight dry air slot on that northern side, I'm not sure whether it is or not, and an interesting band on that north side as well. But certainly it's wrapping round, it looks like it's getting tighter, which would suggest stronger winds near the centre and perhaps a deepening of the pressure. I reckon this storm is probably just about already reaching tropical storm status, this depression I should say officially, and I think it will be designated a tropical storm later today, pretty soon. But looking good on the infrared, getting some decent cloud tops up. It's got a nice look about it all around there with a big area there. I don't think there's much dry air that's going to be getting into that. And look at that wide view as well. Saharan air layer? What Saharan air layer? There's hardly anything there at all to stop this system from getting stronger over the next few days.